At the beginning of the drama, we are introduced to two students who wake up on the same morning. Although they are around the same age, their personalities are completely different. They don't have a single thing in common, and in fact, they can barely stand each other. Soon, we'll learn why these two are always at odds. Right now, both of them are getting ready for their first day of high school. Now we meet our main female lead, Mu-shi. The only family she has is her older brother, who has raised her all by himself. Mu-shi is an energetic and mischievous girl who is always causing trouble. Early in the morning, her brother makes sure she eats breakfast before personally taking her to school, because today is her very first day of high school. While they're on the way, Mu-shi suddenly asks her brother to stop. Confused, he asks what happened. Mu-shi sniffs the air and says that she can smell an evil spirit. Looking ahead, we see a handsome boy standing nearby. The story then takes us back to their childhood. Since they were little, Mu-shi has always been extremely naughty, while this boy has always been calm and well-behaved. Mu-shi was terrible at studying and often slept during class, but the boy always paid close attention to the teacher and was one of the best students in school. As the years passed, they continued studying together and eventually entered the same high school. Mu-shi is actually very excited about starting high school because she believes she'll finally be separated from this boy. Ever since they were kids, he has always kept an eye on her and tried to control everything she did. And Mu-shi absolutely hates that. So she confidently walks into her new classroom expecting a fresh start. But the moment she enters, she freezes. The very same boy is already sitting inside her class. Mu-shi immediately gets angry and asks, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be in this class." The boy calmly explains that he missed one of his required courses, so he has been placed in this class instead. Hearing this completely ruins Mu-shi's mood. Just then, their teacher enters the classroom and asks everyone to introduce themselves. The first girl says that her name is Shanyi, and she enjoys fortune-telling. Then another girl introduces herself as Young Ka, saying that she loves drawing. After that, two boys introduce themselves. Their names are Hong Nan and Hong In. Finally, it's the handsome boy's turn. He introduces himself as Liao. We learn that Liao has always been one of the smartest students in school. He was the class monitor in every grade before this, and he also wants to become the class monitor in high school. Then, our cheerful and stubborn Mu-shi stands up to introduce herself. Before even saying her own name, she loudly tells everyone not to vote for Liao as the class monitor. Only after saying that does she introduce herself as Mu-shi. It's already obvious that these two have been rivals for a long time. Since Mu-shi no longer wants to live under Liao's control, she decides to compete against him for the position of class monitor. She passionately tells all of her classmates, "I'll always stand by your side, we'll do everything together." Liao is surprised by her sudden speech, but the rest of the class really likes her attitude. Because of that, most of the students vote for Mu-shi, making her the new class monitor. Mu-shi becomes extremely happy after winning. However, her happiness doesn't last very long. A few moments later, she learns that although she has officially become the class monitor, all of the class's academic responsibilities have been assigned to Liao. In other words, Mu-shi may have won the title, but she still hasn't escaped Liao's control. She'll still have to work with him every day. Mu-shi confidently tells Liao, "Now that I've become the class monitor, just wait. Soon I'll take that responsibility away from you as well." Liao smiles and replies, "Just try being the class monitor for 1 week. You'll give up on your own, and then everyone will make me the class monitor again." Mu-shi immediately fires back, saying that he's just making excuses because he lost, and tells him not to worry about her. After that, the teacher begins explaining all of the rules and responsibilities that come with being the class monitor. Since Mu-shi is now in charge, she'll have to follow every school rule, keep an eye on the entire class, and handle countless responsibilities. The more the teacher explains, the more Mu-shi's head starts spinning. She quickly realizes that managing everything by herself will be impossible. After thinking for a moment, she comes up with an idea. Instead of doing everything alone, she'll divide the responsibilities among all of her classmates. Even so, Mu-shi still feels completely overwhelmed. In her imagination, she sees herself like a poor cart driver struggling to pull an incredibly heavy cart, while all of the responsibilities piled onto her feel as heavy as mountains. Even after trying her best, Mu-shi still can't handle all the work by herself. She sighs and says, "I thought being the class monitor would be easy, but now it doesn't even seem easy to survive." So she gathers everyone together and tells them that they'll handle everything as a team. She divides the responsibilities among all of her classmates instead of keeping everything on her own. After finishing the arrangements, Mu-shi proudly goes to Liao and says, "See, I handled everything so easily." However, Liao isn't impressed. He tells her that instead of proving she's capable, she's only proven how careless she is. A little later, both Mu Shi and Liao receive another assignment from their teacher. 2 students are absent from school, so they must bring them back. The 2 split up and head in different directions. Mu Shi visits the home of a girl named Shan Qi, who refuses to come to school. Meanwhile, Liao goes to bring another student named Xiao Dong. The reason Xiao Dong avoids school is quite different. He's actually a famous idol. Whenever he appears in public, his fans surround him like zombies, making it impossible for him to attend classes peacefully. Xiao Dong tells Liao, "If you can keep my fans away from me, then I'll come to school." On the other hand, Mu Shi patiently waits inside Shan Qi's house. Eventually, she walks into the girl's bedroom and notices that the walls are completely covered with posters and pictures of Xiao Dong. At that moment, Mu Shi realizes that Shan Qi is a huge fan of the famous idol, so she casually tells her, "By the way, Xiao Dong is coming to school today." The moment Shan Qi hears that, she immediately jumps up with excitement and rushes to school without any hesitation. Meanwhile, Liao comes up with a clever plan. He puts on Xiao Dong's school jacket and appears in front of the idol's fans. Mistaking Liao for Xiao Dong, the excited fans all rush toward him instead. This gives the real Xiao Dong the perfect chance to sneak safely into school. Soon, both Xiao Dong and Shan Qi arrive at school and introduce themselves to the class. Later, back in the classroom, Mu Shi can't stop laughing at Liao because he looks absolutely miserable. During the distraction, Xiao Dong's fans had attacked him and even tore his uniform. As time passes, everyone in the class gradually becomes close friends. One day, while they're all chatting together, Mu Shi looks at Xiao Dong and suddenly says, "I feel like I've seen you somewhere before." Xiao Dong confidently replies, "That's probably because I'm always on TV." But Mu Shi shakes her head and says, "No, I think I knew you when we were little." The story then flashes back to their childhood. We see a very overweight little boy who is constantly bullied by the other children. Xiao Dong immediately panics and starts shouting, "That wasn't me!" Unfortunately, everyone around him hears his reaction, making the situation even more awkward. Around this time, another new student joins the class. Her name is Shen Wei. When Shen Wei notices Liao, she's surprised and wonders why such a handsome and intelligent student is studying in this classroom. Normally, all of the top students study in another advanced class. Since Shen Wei herself is an excellent student, she finds it strange that someone like Liao is here. In the next scene, we see Xiao Dong practicing his dancing. Later, he even sings a song for Mu Shi. His real goal is to make her forget about the overweight boy from their childhood and see him for who he is now. But even after hearing his song, Mu Shi still can't forget that memory. Xiao Dong then tells her, "Please accept me as I am now." Even so, Mu Shi continues thinking about the little boy she remembers. Finally, Xiao Dong takes her to a quiet place and decides to tell her the truth. He admits, "You guessed correctly. I really was that overweight boy when I was young. Back then, everyone bullied me because of my weight. No one wanted to play with me. They kept calling me fat, and it hurt me so much that I cried almost every day." He continues, "I worked incredibly hard to become the person I am today. So, are you going to tell everyone that I used to be fat?" Mu Shi smiles and shakes her head. She says, "I was only trying to confirm whether that boy was really you. Why would I go around telling people what you looked like when you were a child?" Hearing her answer, Xiao Dong finally relaxes. From that moment on, the two of them become genuine friends, and their friendship grows much stronger. As their friendship grows stronger, Mu Shi and Xiao Dong begin spending more time together. They even sit at the piano, singing songs together and enjoying each other's company. In the next scene, Mu Shi's older brother looks at her and casually says, "You're getting fatter every day. You should start controlling what you eat." The moment Mu Shi hears that, she becomes furious. In her imagination, she even pictures herself blasting her brother away with a machine gun. Although it's only a fantasy, his words get stuck in her head and she starts worrying that she has really gained weight. The next day, she asks Xiao Dong, "Do I really look fat? Liao said I'm getting fatter." Xiao Dong comforts her and says, "Don't worry, from today onward, I'll personally train you." Just like that, Mu Shi's weight loss training begins. The training is much harder than she expected. Since she's never exercised seriously before, she quickly becomes exhausted. She even tries to run away several times, but Xiao Dong never lets her escape. One day, Mu Shi meets Liao. Seeing how tired she looks, Liao quietly gives her a chocolate. Mu Shi's eyes immediately light up. She happily unwraps it and starts eating without wasting a second. But before she can enjoy it, Xiao Dong suddenly appears. The moment he sees her eating chocolate, he snatches it away, throws it aside, and drags Muxi off to continue her training. Meanwhile, Liao simply watches the whole scene with a small smile on his face. Even after returning home, Muxi still can't escape. Xiaodong actually follows her to her house and prepares a glass of bitter melon juice for her. He confidently tells her, "If you drink this, you'll become slim much faster." However, Muxi has absolutely no intention of drinking something that bitter, so she secretly comes up with a plan. Somehow, she manages to make Xiaodong fall asleep. The moment he dozes off, Muxi quietly sneaks away before he wakes up. The next day at school, Muxi suddenly starts receiving several strange messages. All of them are sent from Liao's account. The messages claim that Liao wants to date her. Naturally, Muxi finds it impossible to believe. She immediately goes to Liao and asks him about the messages. Liao calmly explains, "I already told everyone that my account was hacked. Didn't you know?" Only then does Muxi realize she completely misunderstood the situation. Embarrassed, she quickly runs away without saying another word. After that, we're introduced to another teacher at the school named Teacher Yang. Teacher Yang is extremely strict and has a frightening personality. Almost every student in the school is scared of him, and because of that, he carries himself with a great deal of authority. Today, Teacher Yang comes to teach Class 10. As soon as he enters the classroom, he starts putting tremendous pressure on the students. None of them enjoy attending his classes because of how harsh he is. Teacher Yang then coldly says, "None of you are qualified to stay in my class. Only those who are worthy may remain. Everyone else, get out." Without arguing, every student leaves the classroom one by one. As punishment, each of them has to hold a chair above their head while standing outside the classroom. Teacher Yang occasionally comes outside just to check whether they're still holding the chairs properly. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, we see only Liao still sitting at his desk. This makes it clear that, according to Teacher Yang, Liao is the only student qualified to attend his lesson. While the others continue standing outside with their chairs, their homeroom teacher arrives. Feeling sorry for the students, the teacher tells them to put the chairs down. He then speaks to Teacher Yang and says, "After your class is over, I still have to teach these students. Please give them a chance to prepare themselves mentally. There's no need to put so much pressure on them." Later, Shen Wei approaches Liao. She still can't understand why someone as talented as him is studying in this class. So she says, "You're one of the best students. Why don't you transfer to my class instead?" However, Liao shows no interest in her suggestion and simply ignores it. Later, one of the teachers calls both Muxi and Liao to the office. The teacher tells them, "I'm about to give you two a very important responsibility." He explains that two students in the school have started dating each other. Since they're still too young to be in a relationship, the teacher wants Muxi and Liao to talk to them and convince them to focus on their studies instead. The moment they receive the task, Muxi and Liao begin arguing again. Both of them become determined to prove that they're the one who can solve the problem first. So they split up. Muxi goes to talk with the girl, while Liao goes to meet the boy. Both of them patiently explain why the students should stay away from romance for now. However, convincing two teenagers in love isn't that easy. While they're talking, the girl suddenly receives a message saying that they should meet for a date that evening. Without saying much, she quickly leaves. At almost the same time, the boy receives the exact same message and also heads out. Later that night, we see Liao quietly holding a marble in his hand. Looking at it reminds him of a childhood memory. Back then, he and Muxi were playing hide-and-seek together. Muxi happily hid herself, while Liao was supposed to find her. But for some reason, he never went looking for her. Remembering that day still fills him with regret. In the next scene, the two students arrive for their date. Not far away, Muxi secretly follows them to keep an eye on them. A few moments later, Liao also arrives because he has been given the same responsibility. Soon, the two rivals end up working together and secretly follow the young couple wherever they go. Eventually, everyone enters a shopping mall. While Muxi and Liao are trying to stay unnoticed, the mall manager approaches them. He tells them that the mall is holding a special couples promotion that day. Before they can even refuse, the manager mistakes them for a couple and includes them in the discount event. Ironically, it starts looking as if Muxi and Liao are the ones on a date instead of the students they're supposed to be watching. Even after that, they continue following the couple. As time passes, both Muxi and Liao begin getting bored. They notice that the two students haven't done anything romantic at all. They haven't held hands. They haven't given each other flowers. They haven't even gotten close to each other. Because nothing interesting is happening, Muxi and Liao eventually sit down to rest. Unfortunately, that's when the two students notice them, and their secret surveillance is exposed. The story then takes us back to another childhood memory. One day, Muxi's older brother came to Liao in a panic and asked if he had seen Muxi because she had suddenly disappeared. Liao answered that he hadn't seen her, but a moment later he suddenly remembered something. Earlier that day, they had been playing hide and seek. He had told Mushi to hide, but he had completely forgotten to go and look for her. That meant Mushi had been waiting alone in her hiding place the entire time. Realizing his mistake, Liao immediately started searching for her everywhere. He searched desperately but couldn't find her. Feeling helpless, he silently prayed to God. He promised that if he found Mushi safely, he would spend the rest of his life looking after her and guiding her. Thankfully, he eventually found her. And ever since that day, Liao has continued taking care of Mushi because he's been keeping the promise he made that day. Later, we see Shan Yi, the girl who introduced herself as a fortune teller on the first day of school. This time, Shenwei comes to visit her. Although Shenwei doesn't really believe in fortune telling, Shan Yi confidently tells her, "Very soon, you're going to meet your true love." After hearing those mysterious words, Shenwei quietly leaves, wondering whether the prediction could actually come true. Later, while Shenwei is sitting alone in the classroom, Liao walks in. Because of an unexpected situation, he accidentally bumps into her. Shenwei has already started developing feelings for Liao, so when she suddenly finds him standing right in front of her, she immediately remembers Shan Yi's prediction. She begins wondering if Liao is actually her true love. Unable to stop thinking about it, Shenwei visits Shan Yi again. Since Shan Yi's previous prediction seems to have come true, Shenwei now wants to know more about her destined partner. This time, Shan Yi tells her, "Your true love will save you from fire." Meanwhile, Hong Nan and Hong In are secretly causing trouble inside the chemistry laboratory. They want to teach Teacher Yang a lesson, so they perform a reckless experiment, hoping to create a small explosion. After setting everything up, they quietly leave the lab and wait outside for the blast. At that very moment, Shenwei happens to walk toward the laboratory. The two boys suddenly realize that she'll get caught in the explosion. They begin arguing over which one of them should go and save her. But before either of them can move, Liao suddenly arrives. Without wasting a second, he rushes inside to rescue Shenwei. Just then, a small explosion occurs inside the laboratory. Although the blast isn't very large, it creates complete chaos. Teacher Yang is also caught up in the incident and ends up in terrible condition. Fortunately, Liao manages to get Shenwei out safely. When Shenwei sees Liao risking himself to save her, she's completely stunned. Shan Yi had told her that her true love would save her from fire, and now that exact prediction has come true. Because of this, Shenwei becomes convinced that Liao is truly her destined partner. She even starts wondering if fate really exists. Not long afterward, another awkward incident takes place. Liao wants to apologize to Shenwei about something. However, because of an accident, the two of them end up locked inside a storage cabinet together. Liao tries to say, "I'm sorry," but Shenwei misunderstands the situation. Thinking something completely different, she quickly covers his mouth before he can even finish speaking. Feeling embarrassed, she immediately rushes out of the cabinet. A little later, Liao comes to apologize properly. This time, he even brings a bottle of juice for Shenwei as a peace offering. Before handing it to her, he casually takes a sip himself. After apologizing, he gives her the juice and quietly leaves. Once Liao is gone, Shenwei suddenly remembers that they both drank from the same bottle. Her face instantly turns red. She starts thinking that this is almost like an indirect kiss. Now she's even more convinced that Liao really is her true love. Unable to hide her excitement, she goes back to Shan Yi once again. This time, she even gives Shan Yi a special job. Shan Yi is secretly delighted because helping Shenwei fall for Liao was exactly what she had been planning from the beginning. In the next scene, Mushi approaches Liao with an unusually kind attitude. She softly asks him, "You once said that you'd always stay by my side. Will you still help me now?" Liao calmly replies, "Not this time." The reason for Mushi's sudden kindness is actually very simple. Their English exam is only a few days away. Since Mushi always fails English, she's trying to get Liao to help her prepare. Soon, the rest of the class also starts treating Liao extremely well, hoping he'll tutor them too. However, Liao refuses to help anyone. Since they can't rely on Liao, almost everyone decides to cheat during the exam instead. Unfortunately, their plan completely fails. The teacher catches every one of them cheating. As a result, the entire class fails the exam. The only student who manages to pass is Liao. When Teacher Yang sees the terrible results, he becomes furious with Class 10. Seeing everyone being scolded, Liao steps forward on behalf of the whole class. He apologizes to Teacher Yang and sincerely asks him to give everyone one more chance. After that, Liao personally begins helping the entire entire class study together. At first, however, the students spend more time chatting, joking around, and doing everything except studying. They simply can't stay focused. But thanks to Liao's patience and continuous guidance, they gradually begin taking their studies seriously. In the end, all of them manage to pass the next exam successfully. Later, the school holds an art competition. Even though Class 10 performs very well, not a single student from the class wins an award. Seeing this, Teacher Yang is secretly delighted. Since he has never liked Class 10, he doesn't want them to receive any recognition. However, the students don't let the result ruin their mood. Instead, they cheer each other up and say, "So what if we didn't win? We'll celebrate together anyway." Soon, the whole class starts enjoying themselves. They encourage one another, believing that they'll achieve even greater things in the future. After school, Mu Xi and Xiaodong walk home together. The two happily chat and laugh along the way. However, without them noticing, someone secretly takes several photos of them from a distance. Since Xiaodong is a famous idol, those pictures are bound to create a huge misunderstanding. The very next day, Mu Xi realizes something is wrong as soon as she arrives at school. Everyone keeps staring at her. Students whisper to one another saying, "That's the girl. Isn't she the one from the photos?" Mu Xi has no idea what's happening. Feeling uncomfortable, she quietly tries to avoid everyone's attention. At that moment, Liao walks over to her. He asks, "Don't you know what's going on?" Mu Xi shakes her head. So Liao shows her the online photos and the news articles that have already spread across the internet. Only then does Mu Xi realize just how serious the situation has become. Meanwhile, Shen Wei is thinking about Liao almost every second of the day. She's completely fallen for him. Whenever she gathers the courage to talk to him, something unexpected always gets in the way. Because of that, she can't even have a proper conversation with him. Still, she refuses to give up. She keeps looking for the perfect opportunity to confess her feelings. At one point, she even imagines herself taking Liao by the hand, leading him somewhere quiet, and honestly telling him everything that's in her heart. But before she gets the chance, another accident happens. As Shen Wei walks past the chemistry laboratory once again, another small explosion suddenly occurs. Just like before, Hong Nan and Hong In are responsible for it, because they're still trying to get revenge on Teacher Yang. Unfortunately, Shen Wei is caught up in the incident again. As a result, she completely loses the opportunity to confess her feelings that day. Later, we see Xiaodong together with his management team. Some of his school friends are there as well. To stop the growing rumors, Xiaodong publicly faces the media and clearly explains that there is absolutely no romantic relationship between him and Mu Xi. He says that they're simply very good friends. After clearing up the misunderstanding, everyone leaves feeling relieved. Later that day, after school ends, Liao is walking home alone. Meanwhile, Shen Wei has been waiting for him on the roadside. As soon as Liao arrives, she gathers all of her courage and says, "I need to talk to you." Without overthinking anything, Shen Wei honestly confesses her feelings and tells Liao that she likes him. After hearing her confession, Liao remains completely silent. Without giving her any answer, he simply turns around and walks away. That night, Liao can't fall asleep. The next few days become even more troublesome because Shen Wei keeps following him around school and constantly tries to get close to him. Liao gradually becomes exhausted by the situation. He can't figure out how to escape from her persistent attention. Eventually, he even starts sneaking into school just to avoid running into her. But he knows he can't keep hiding forever. Finally, after putting up with it for several days, Liao decides to ask Mu Xi for help. He says, "Can you do me a favor? Shen Wei confessed that she loves me, and now she's following me everywhere. I really don't know how to deal with her." The moment Mu Xi hears that Shen Wei confessed to Liao, she bursts into laughter. She can barely control herself. Still laughing, she says, "So that serious girl actually confessed to you?" Then she confidently pats her chest and adds, "Don't worry, you're getting nervous over something this small. Leave it to me. I'll solve this problem in just 1 minute." After that, Mu Xi takes Liao up to the school rooftop. Liao has no idea what she's planning, but knowing Mu Xi's mischievous personality, it's obvious that she's about to do something outrageous. A few moments later, Shen Wei arrives. Without wasting any time, Mu Xi says, "So, I heard you confess to Liao." Then she smiles and adds, "But Liao doesn't like you, because he likes me." She even starts making up a ridiculous story, claiming that Liao has loved her ever since she was 1 year old. Then Mu Xi turns toward Liao and says, "Am I right? Why don't you tell her yourself?" Liao is completely stunned. He can't believe Mu Xi has dragged him into such an awkward situation. If he had known this was her plan, he never would have asked her for help. Left with no choice, Liao forces himself to nod and says, "Yes, I like Mushi too. I've liked her since we were little." But Mushi isn't satisfied yet. She tells Liao to keep going and praise her properly. She says, "Tell her I'm cute, pretty, and beautiful." Liao grits his teeth in frustration. Still, he has no choice but to continue acting. So he reluctantly says, "Yes, she's very cute, pretty, and beautiful." Watching the two of them acting so overly sweet together, Shenwei feels incredibly awkward. She looks so shocked that it almost seems like she's having trouble breathing. Unable to watch any longer, she pushes past them and quietly walks away. The moment Shenwei leaves, Liao covers his face with both hands in embarrassment. He can't believe the words that just came out of his mouth. Meanwhile, Mushi stands there laughing like she's just pulled off the greatest prank of her life. It's hard to tell whether she actually helped Liao or simply used the opportunity to get revenge on him. In the next scene, we see Shenwei walking down the street. She's dressed beautifully and keeps taking selfies before uploading them one after another. At the same time, Liao is riding his bicycle on his way to get something to eat. Meanwhile, Mushi is walking from the opposite direction. Just like always, the two accidentally bump into each other. Within seconds, they begin arguing again. Coincidentally, Shenwei is nearby and hears their voices. She immediately walks over to see what's happening. The moment Mushi and Liao notice Shenwei approaching, they suddenly remember that they had just told her they were a couple. If she sees them arguing like this, she'll immediately realize they lied. So the two instantly stop fighting and begin acting like a real couple. Their sudden change in behavior completely fools Shenwei. A little later, all three of them go to a restaurant together. Throughout the meal, Mushi and Liao continue putting on a convincing performance as a loving couple. After finishing his meal, Liao quickly gets on his bicycle and leaves. Mushi becomes curious. She wonders why he left in such a hurry, so she secretly follows him. Eventually, Liao arrives at a hospital. There, Mushi discovers that he has come to visit his grandmother, who has been admitted as a patient. This is the first time Mushi meets Liao's grandmother. At first, the two don't get along at all. Their personalities immediately clash and they end up arguing with each other. However, Liao's grandmother begins to suspect that Mushi might actually be the girl her grandson likes. Because of that, she starts asking Mushi one question after another. Mushi feels as if she's being interrogated instead of having a normal conversation. Later, the three of them sit down to eat together. While they're eating, Liao's grandmother criticizes Mushi and says, "You don't have any manners. You don't even know how to eat properly." Even though she acts strict, we soon realize that she's actually feeling very sad. The reason is that today is her wedding anniversary. Mushi accidentally discovers this after reading one of her letters, and finally understands why Liao's grandmother has been acting so emotional all day. Meanwhile, after learning that it is Liao's grandmother's wedding anniversary, Mushi and Liao decide to do something special for her. Together, they buy her a beautiful dress as a surprise. After giving her the gift, the three of them take several photos together. Liao's grandmother is overjoyed. From that moment on, she also starts seeing Mushi in a much better light. Later, back at school, a large crowd of students gathers around the notice board. Mushi and her friends become curious and try to see what's written on it, but there are so many girls standing in front that they can't see anything. Thinking quickly, Mushi suddenly shouts, "Xiaodong!" The girls immediately hear the name of their favorite idol. Without even checking whether he's really there, they all run off in the direction of the voice, hoping to find him. As soon as the crowd disappears, Mushi finally gets a clear look at the notice board. She learns that the school is organizing a music competition. Mushi becomes incredibly excited because she immediately wants to participate. However, there's one problem. Every contestant has to sing in English, and English is by far Mushi's weakest subject. Xiaodong tells her that if she wants to compete, she'll have to improve her English first. Without wasting any time, Mushi runs to Liao and begs him, "Please teach me English." At first, Liao refuses, but Mushi suddenly starts speaking loudly. "My dear boyfriend, since you're my boyfriend, won't you teach me English?" The moment Liao hears her shouting, he immediately realizes she's trying to embarrass him in front of everyone. He quickly stops her and says, "That's enough, stop shouting, I'll teach you." And just like that, Liao begins giving Mushi English lessons. However, they spend far more time arguing than actually studying. Almost every lesson turns into another fight. Liao teaches her one pronunciation, while Mushi insists on saying it a completely different way. Eventually, Liao gets frustrated and walks away. Mushi also sits there angrily, refusing to admit she's wrong. But after both of them calm down, Liao returns and continues teaching her. The song Mushi chooses for the competition contains the words, "I love you." So Liao repeatedly teaches her the correct pronunciation. He says, "I love you," but Mushi keeps saying it incorrectly. No matter how many times Liao repeats it, Mushi somehow manages to pronounce it differently every single time. Soon, another argument breaks out. At that exact moment, Shenwei happens to walk by. When she hears the two of them repeatedly saying, "I love you" to each other, she completely misunderstands the situation. She sighs and says, "You two have really taken your relationship to the next level." Feeling jealous, Shenwei walks away in anger. Meanwhile, Mushi and Liao are left standing there in complete confusion. Neither of them understands what Shenwei misunderstood this time. Even after school, Liao continues helping Mushi practice English at her house. Little by little, Mushi's English improves. Eventually, the day of the music competition arrives. The students go up on stage one by one and perform. After everyone finishes singing, the judges announce that only 5 contestants will advance to the next round. Unfortunately, Mushi's name isn't among them. She becomes heartbroken. Seeing how disappointed she is, Xiaodong feels sorry for her. So he walks onto the stage and says, "I perform on stage all the time. I don't need this opportunity. I'd like to give my place to someone else." Because of Xiaodong's decision, Mushi is selected instead. She becomes incredibly happy. However, another problem appears. The next performance requires every contestant to sing with a partner. Unfortunately, no one wants to partner with Mushi, so she goes to Liao and asks him to sing with her. Liao immediately refuses. Mushi then asks, "Can you even sing?" Liao confidently replies, "Of course I can." But despite saying that, he still refuses to become her partner. Since no one agrees to sing with her, Mushi has no choice but to go onto the stage alone. Just as she starts performing, Liao suddenly walks onto the stage and joins her. For a brief moment, Mushi thinks he's finally come to help, but the moment Liao starts singing, everyone in the audience is completely shocked. His singing voice is unbelievably terrible. The audience immediately covers their ears, unable to listen any longer. The entire scene turns into pure comedy. Until Liao joined in, Mushi had actually been singing quite well, but his horrible singing completely ruined the performance. Because of that disastrous duet, they end up finishing in last place. Mushi becomes furious. After leaving the stage, she angrily says, "Who asked you to sing? I seriously hate you." With that, she storms off, leaving Liao standing there. And that's where the first season of this high school drama comes to an end. At the beginning of Season 2, we are introduced to Shenwei, who still hasn't given up on her feelings for Liao. She decides to confess her love once again. This time, instead of writing a normal letter, she carefully writes all her feelings on a handkerchief, hoping Liao will finally understand how much she loves him. After finishing it, she hides the handkerchief inside a book so she can secretly give it to him. Then we see Shenwei arrive at Liao's classroom with the book. She hands it over to him, and Liao immediately asks why she's giving him a book. Shenwei shyly tells him not to ask any questions. She simply wants him to read it and give her an answer. She also tells him not to make her wait too long because she'll be waiting for his reply. After that, Shenwei sits alone and starts daydreaming once again. In her imagination, Liao has already found the handkerchief hidden inside the book and read her love confession. He happily accepts her feelings and comes to meet her. In her fantasy, both of them are sitting together, smiling and chatting like a couple, making Shenwei believe that her dream has finally come true. Meanwhile, we see Liao opening the book and beginning to read it. However, he still hasn't found the hidden handkerchief. At that very moment, the mischievous Mushi arrives. She has caught a cold and suddenly starts coughing badly. Without asking Liao for permission, she grabs the handkerchief Shenwei had hidden inside the book and uses it to wipe her nose and face. The poor love letter is completely ruined before Liao even gets a chance to see it. Watching Mushi casually use the handkerchief leaves Liao completely confused. After cleaning herself, Mushi tries to give the handkerchief back to him, but Liao simply tells her to keep it because he doesn't need it anymore. Because of this, Liao never discovers Shenwei's hidden confession. Once again, without even realizing it, Mushi accidentally saves Liao from Shenwei's love confession. On the other hand, Shenwei is sitting alone, patiently waiting for Liao to come and give her an answer. She waits for a long time, but Liao never shows up. Of course, he can't reply because he never found the love letter in the first place. After school ends, Liao and Mushi meet each other on the way home. Mushi curiously asks why he always rushes home right after school and why he looks so worried all the time. She tells him that if something is bothering him, he can share it with her because she's always ready to help. But Liao has already learned his lesson after accepting Mushi's help once before, so he has no intention of asking her for another favor. Instead, he tells Mushi that if she really wants to know what's on his mind, she should come closer. Excited, Mushi quickly walks over to him. Liao then tells her to close her eyes. Thinking he's about to reveal something important, Mushi happily closes them without any hesitation. However, Liao has no such plan. The moment she closes her eyes, he quietly walks away and leaves her standing there all by herself. Mushi keeps her eyes closed for quite a while, waiting for him to speak. But when she hears nothing, she opens her eyes and realizes Liao has tricked her and already left. She becomes completely speechless. The next day, we see everyone at school getting shocked because Liao is actually sleeping in the classroom. Mushi can't believe what she's seeing because this is the first time she's ever seen Liao fall asleep during class. Finding the situation hilarious, she excitedly takes a selfie with the sleeping Liao and can't stop laughing. Just then, the teacher is teaching the class and asks a question. Before anyone else can answer, Mushi confidently raises her hand and tells the teacher that Liao will answer it. She wakes him up, but since Liao had been sleeping the whole time, he has absolutely no idea what the question was. Naturally, he can't answer it, and seeing him so embarrassed makes Mushi laugh so hard that her stomach starts hurting. Then we see the next morning at Mushi's house. She is sleeping peacefully when someone keeps knocking loudly on the front door. At first, Mushi ignores it, thinking whoever it is will eventually leave. But the knocking continues for so long that her sleep is completely ruined. Annoyed, she gets out of bed, storms to the door, and opens it, only to find Liao standing outside. She immediately shouts, asking why he's at her house so early in the morning and why he's making so much noise. Liao calmly explains that her brother told him there was food for her in the refrigerator, so she should eat it. Then he teasingly says that people who sleep too much eventually become stupid. Mushi instantly gets offended and asks if he really thinks she's stupid. The two of them begin arguing once again, but in the middle of their fight, they suddenly hear a baby crying outside. Curious, both of them rush outside to find the baby. Surprisingly, they don't find any child at all. Instead, they discover an elderly woman sitting there. The moment Liao sees her, he immediately recognizes that she is his grandmother, who has somehow escaped from the hospital. Liao quickly calls the hospital to let them know that his grandmother is safe and currently with him, telling them not to worry. After that, he turns to Mushi and says that he doesn't usually expect much from her, but today he has an important competition to attend. Until he returns home, he wants Mushi to take good care of his grandmother and make sure nothing happens to her. Mushi confidently assures him that he has nothing to worry about and promises to look after his grandmother carefully. Since Liao has very little time left before his competition begins, he quickly leaves. Meanwhile, Mushi and Liao's grandmother stay behind together, happily chatting and getting to know each other better. Meanwhile, Mushi asks Liao's grandmother to tell her stories from the old days. Grandma happily agrees and starts sharing memories from her younger days, along with some important moments from her life. Mushi enjoys listening to every single story. A little later, while Mushi is in the bathroom, Grandma comes to her and says that she wants to go back to her own house. Mushi immediately agrees and takes her there. However, in her hurry, Mushi makes a huge mistake. She forgets to turn off the bathroom tap before leaving, so the water keeps running non-stop. On the other hand, Liao successfully finishes his competition and even wins first place. Afterward, he returns home, where he sees that Mushi and his grandmother have spent a wonderful time together. Just then, 2 nurses from the hospital arrive to take Grandma back. Before leaving, Grandma makes Mushi promise that she will come to visit her at the hospital. Mushi gladly promises that she definitely will. Liao is honestly surprised because, for once, Mushi didn't create any trouble and actually took great care of his grandmother. Mushi proudly asks him, "Do you really think I only know how to cause problems?" But the very next moment, Liao opens the bathroom door and discovers that the entire house has been flooded with water because Mushi forgot to turn off the tap. It turns out she really did create another disaster. In the next scene, we see Liao standing inside Mushi's room. Since his own house has been flooded, he has no choice but to stay at Mushi's house for a few days. Not only that, he'll even be sharing Mushi's room. The moment Mushi hears this, she refuses completely. She tells Liao that she will never let him stay in her house, especially not in her room. Liao calmly reminds her that her mistake flooded his house, so now she has to take responsibility for it. Then we see Mushi getting furious with her older brother because he allowed Liao to stay without even asking her. Since Liao is her brother's close friend, he had no problem helping him, but Mushi sees Liao as her biggest enemy. She angrily asks her brother whether he's Liao's brother or hers, and demands to know how he could let Liao stay in her room. Her brother patiently explains that Liao's house was flooded because of her mistake, so he'll only be staying with them for a short time. Later, Liao quietly looks around Mushi's room. Mushi notices him looking everywhere and proudly says that there's nothing wrong with her room. Then she immediately kicks him out, making it clear that she has no intention of sharing it with him. That night, Liao sits outside studying peacefully. Meanwhile, Mushi turns on loud music inside her room and starts dancing as noisily as possible. She's doing all of this on purpose because she hopes Liao will get so annoyed that he'll leave and return to his own house. The loud music makes it impossible for Liao to concentrate on his studies, and he becomes visibly irritated. Meanwhile, Mushi dances until she gets tired and eventually falls asleep. Once the music finally stops, Liao quietly resumes studying, proving once again that nothing can stop him from focusing on his books. The next morning, we see Mushi happily eating snacks in the living room while making a huge mess everywhere. Liao walks in and says he had cleaned the entire room just a little while ago, so how did it become messy again so quickly? Mushi quickly says she'll clean everything, but instead of actually cleaning, she simply pushes all the trash underneath the sofa. Watching this childish behavior, Liao wonders when she'll finally grow up. Mushi intentionally keeps making the house dirty again and again because she hopes Liao will get tired of cleaning and leave the house. But every single time, Liao patiently cleans everything without saying much. Later, when Liao comes back into the room once again, he finds that Mushi has somehow made an even bigger mess. So he quietly cleans the entire room all over again. After finishing, he even folds Mushi's clothes neatly and organizes everything perfectly. Seeing this, Mushi realizes that her plan isn't working at all. No matter what she does, Liao refuses to get angry or leave. She understands she'll need a completely different plan. The next day at school, Liao opens his textbook and finds that Mushi has secretly stuffed a doll inside it just to annoy him. Liao immediately becomes upset, while Mushi happily enjoys his reaction. But when Mushi opens her own book, she discovers that Liao has carefully covered it to protect it from getting damaged. Instead of taking revenge, he actually tried to help her. However, Mushi doesn't appreciate his kindness at all. Unable to tolerate it, she angrily tears off all the book covers just to calm herself down. A little later, Liao opens his pencil box and is shocked to discover that it's bright pink. Since pink is his least favorite color, he immediately becomes annoyed. Of course, this is another prank planned by Mushi. She proudly shows the pink pencil box to everyone in the classroom, laughing the whole time. After school, both of them walk home together, but neither of them says a single word. Mushi spends the entire walk thinking about new ways to drive Liao out of her house. After reaching home, Mushi's brother scolds her for all the trouble she's been causing. Mushi complains that her own brother is taking Liao's side instead of hers. At the same time, Liao asks Mushi why she gave him a pink pencil box when she already knows he hates pink. Mushi smirks and says, "You may not like pink, but your face has already turned pink from anger." At that moment, Mushi's brother realizes that Liao has developed a fever. He understands that all the extra cleaning and stress caused by Mushi's constant pranks have finally made him sick. That night, we see Mushi quietly worrying about Liao. She feels guilty because she believes it's her fault that he became ill. She softly tells him not to worry because she won't let anything happen to him. Liao then quietly says, "My hand." Mushi immediately grabs his hand and asks what happened, saying she'll fix it for him. But Liao suddenly shouts that she's pressing down on his hand too hard. Realizing what she's done, Mushi quickly lets go and moves away in embarrassment. Mushi immediately apologizes to Liao. At this point, you have to wonder, is Mushi really trying to take care of Liao, or is she accidentally trying to finish him off? After a while, Liao falls asleep. Seeing him lying completely still, Mushi suddenly gets scared. She starts thinking that he might have died because of his fever. Panicking, she repeatedly calls his name and tells him that he can't die like this. She insists that she won't let him die. But Liao doesn't respond at all. The more silent he remains, the more worried Mushi becomes. Finally, she raises her hand to hit him, hoping to wake him up. Just as she's about to do it, Liao suddenly opens his eyes and says, Did you really think I would die that easily and let you escape from me? Mushi lets out a sigh of relief and immediately replies that he isn't allowed to die yet because she still has a lot of revenge left to take on him. As the night goes on, Mushi continues taking care of Liao. She repeatedly places a wet towel on his forehead to reduce his fever. While looking after him all night, she eventually falls asleep beside him. At this moment, we get to see another side of Mushi. She's not just mischievous, she also has a caring heart. The next morning, Mushi wakes up and is surprised to find Liao in the kitchen making breakfast as if nothing had happened. She quickly asks if he's feeling better because she couldn't even sleep properly last night while taking care of him. Liao smiles, thanks her for looking after him, and says he's feeling much better now. He then offers her a bowl of soup that he made himself. Mushi takes a bite and immediately loves the soup. While the two of them are talking, Mushi suddenly remembers something important. Today, her friends Saud and Shanshan are coming to visit her house. She instantly panics and begs Liao to leave before they arrive. She tells him that if her friends see him living in her house, they'll completely misunderstand the situation, and both of their reputations will be ruined. Liao reminds her that he's still recovering, and asks where she's expecting him to hide. Mushi simply tells him she doesn't know, but he has to hide somewhere. After thinking for a moment, Liao says he'll just stay inside the room and won't come out while her friends are visiting. A little later, Mushi opens the front door and welcomes her friends inside. She seats them in the living room, hoping everything will go smoothly. But just a few moments later, strange noises begin coming from her room. Trying to distract everyone, Mushi quickly changes the topic and keeps talking non-stop, so nobody pays attention to the sounds. Unfortunately, the noises become even louder. Unable to ignore it anymore, Mushi rushes into her room and whispers to Liao, asking why he can't stay quiet for just a little while. Liao replies that he simply can't stay inside the room any longer. As expected, the two of them start arguing once again. Just then, Mushi hears her friends walking upstairs toward her room. She immediately panics. Without thinking, she pushes Liao down so he won't be seen. Then she rushes outside and desperately tells her friends not to enter her room because it's extremely messy. However, her friends become even more suspicious. They insist on going inside because they want to see what Mushi is hiding that is making so much noise. No matter how much Mushi tries to stop them, they refuse to listen. Finally, having no other choice, she blurts out the first excuse that comes to her mind. She tells them that the person inside her room is actually her new boyfriend. That's why she didn't want anyone to meet him. Hearing this from inside the room, Liao is completely stunned. He can't believe Mushi just called him her boyfriend and starts wondering what kind of trouble she's dragged him into now. Meanwhile, outside, Mushi's four friends burst into uncontrollable laughter. They tease her by saying that there's no way someone as mischievous as Mushi could ever have a boyfriend. They joke that no boy would ever fall for her and tell her to stop trying to fool them. Everyone keeps laughing loudly, unable to control themselves. After they finally leave, Mushi returns to her room and scolds Liao again. She tells him that he should have stayed quiet because she had already warned him. Before leaving, her friends wave goodbye and laugh, saying that Mushi really knows how to make people laugh. Then we see another day at school. All the students are busy enjoying themselves in their own way, while Mushi and Liao continue their never-ending arguments just like always. Later that night, Liao is sitting outside peacefully listening to music. Meanwhile, Mushi is inside her room writing something in her diary. We don't get to see what she's writing, so it remains a mystery. The next day, we learn that one semester has officially come to an end. Since we've already watched Season 1, it's no surprise that the story has now moved into Season 2. All the students are extremely happy because they think they've finally escaped from studying, at least for a while. But their celebration doesn't last long. Liao suddenly appears and tells everyone not to get too excited because this was only one semester. He calmly says they'll all be meeting again in the next semester before walking away. The moment Liao leaves, the students start celebrating for real. They laugh, play around, and enjoy themselves as if they've been freed from studying forever. In the next scene, we see Liao once again proving how serious he is about his studies. Even though the semester has ended, he has no intention of wasting his time. Instead, he enrolls in a coaching center to continue studying. There, we also see Shen Wei. It turns out she studies at the very same coaching center, setting the stage for the next chapter of the story. On the other hand, Mushi and Saud are sitting together. Since the semester is over, neither of them has to worry about studying anymore. Mushi suddenly suggests that they should learn acting because it might be useful for them in the future. Saud immediately agrees because becoming an actor actor is actually his dream. Soon, the two of them visit an acting instructor to start learning. The instructor hands them a script and tells them to perform it. The script is about a boyfriend and girlfriend who have broken up, and now they have to act out how the couple gets back together. Saud struggles to perform the scene naturally, but our mischievous Mushi completely surprises everyone. She acts so confidently that even the instructor is impressed. Meanwhile, we see Shenwei at the coaching center. She gets stuck on a difficult math problem and Liao patiently helps her solve it. After the coaching class ends, the two of them leave together. Shenwei keeps trying to start a conversation with Liao, but Liao barely responds. Instead, he quickly rides away on his bicycle without saying much. Watching him leave, Shenwei once again drifts into her own fantasy world. In her imagination, she and Liao are walking side by side, chatting happily like a real couple. It feels as if they're on a romantic date together. But when Shenwei finally snaps back to reality, she realizes Liao is nowhere near her anymore. He's already ridden far ahead. She quickly starts pedaling her bicycle, trying to catch up with him. On the other hand, we finally learn about Mushi's sad past. Mushi explains that when she was very young, both of her parents passed away. Since then, her older brother has raised her all by himself. They live in a very small house with only one bedroom. To make sure Mushi stays comfortable, her brother lets her use the bedroom while he sleeps in the living room. Even though they're poor, her brother always tries his best to cook delicious meals for her so she can stay happy. Mushi says she never wants to make her brother suffer because he sacrificed everything for her. She truly believes she's lucky to have such a caring brother. Meanwhile, Shenwei is still trying to catch up with Liao, but on the way, two students named Hongnan and Hongin suddenly splash water all over her. Poor Shenwei's luck seems to get worse every single day. No matter how hard she tries, she just can't confess her feelings to Liao. Feeling responsible for what happened, Liao brings Shenwei to Mushi's house and apologizes for his classmates' rude behavior. Shenwei is secretly thrilled because she finally gets the chance to visit Liao's house. At the same time, we see Mushi and Saud continuing their acting practice. During the rehearsal, Saud sincerely confesses his feelings to Mushi. From his expression, it's obvious that this isn't acting anymore. He genuinely likes her. But Mushi completely misunderstands the situation. She claps happily and praises his acting, telling him that he's improved so much and will become an even better actor in the future. Just like Shenwei, it seems Saud has terrible luck when it comes to love. Meanwhile, Shenwei is still excited about being inside Liao's house. She thinks that since she's visiting his home for the first time, she should look as pretty as possible. So she goes to the bathroom to fix her makeup. While she's inside, Mushi returns home and starts talking with her brother. Unfortunately, Shenwei overhears part of their conversation and misunderstands what they are discussing. When she comes back outside, Liao has already dried her wet clothes and kindly brings them to her. But because of her misunderstanding, Shenwei is already angry at him. Without saying a word, she throws the clothes right back at Liao's face and storms out of the house. Liao is left standing there completely confused. He has no idea why Shenwei suddenly became so upset with him. In the next scene, we learn that Liao's grandmother has escaped from the hospital once again. Liao immediately goes out to search for her. Before he leaves, Mushi's brother tells him to take Mushi along while he searches somewhere else. So Liao and Mushi begin looking for Grandma together. They search in many different places, but they still can't find her. After searching for a long time, both of them become exhausted and sit down to rest. Suddenly, Mushi remembers a letter Grandma had written. She instantly realizes where Grandma must have gone. Without wasting another second, Mushi excitedly hits Liao on the head and tells him to follow her because she knows exactly where Grandma is. The two of them rush to the beach, and just as Mushi expected, they find Grandma sitting there. They sit beside her and start talking. Grandma tells them that this beach is where she had her final meeting with her husband before he passed away. Both Liao and Mushi quietly listen as Grandma recalls those precious memories. After a while, Grandma asks Liao to leave for a moment because she wants to speak with Mushi privately. Once Liao walks away, Grandma asks Mushi how she knew she would be here. Mushi explains that when she visited Grandma at the hospital, she found a letter that mentioned this place. That's how she figured out where to look. Grandma becomes very happy after hearing this. As a reward, she removes the bracelet she's wearing and gives it to Mushi. The bracelet is extremely precious because it was a gift from her late husband, making it one of her most treasured possessions. Later, while Liao and Mushi are walking home together, Liao notices the bracelet and immediately recognizes it. He tells Mushi that Grandpa had given that bracelet to Grandma and reminds her how valuable it is. Mushi says Grandma personally gave it to her as a gift because she was happy with her. Liao smiles and tells her that if Grandma chose to give it to her, then she should keep it safely because it means a lot. Mushi tries to hand it back to Liao, thinking it should stay with his family, but Liao refuses. He tells her that Grandma gave it to her from the bottom of her heart, so it belongs to her now. In the next scene, we see Mushi sleeping peacefully in her room when she suddenly receives a phone call from Saud. Saud tells her that everyone has already gathered at her house for a group study session. Mushi happily tells them to come in, completely unaware that another round of chaos is about to begin. After hanging up the phone, Mushi becomes confused. She wonders why her friends called her just to say they were already at her house. Then she suddenly remembers something very important. Liao is still inside the house. She immediately runs downstairs and tells Liao to either leave the house right away or hide somewhere. She explains that all of her friends have come over for a group study session, and if they find out he's staying at her house, it will create a huge misunderstanding. While saying this, Mushi even starts pushing and hitting Liao in a panic. Just then, her brother steps in and stops her. Liao calmly says there's no reason to panic. He explains that his house is very close to Mushi's, so if anyone asks, he'll simply tell them that he arrived early for the group study. That way, nobody will suspect anything. Mushi thinks about it for a moment and realizes it's actually a good excuse. She agrees with Liao's plan and heads toward the front door. But before she opens it, Liao suddenly stops her and says, "You're the big boss of your group. Are you really going to open the door dressed like that? At least go and change your clothes first." Mushi immediately agrees that he's right. Liao hands her some clothes and she quickly goes to change. Meanwhile, Mushi's brother opens the front door and welcomes everyone inside. As soon as the students enter, they're surprised to see Liao already there. They immediately ask how he got to Mushi's house so early and jokingly wonder if he has secretly been staying there. Liao calmly sticks to his story. He explains that his house is very close by, so he simply arrived earlier than everyone else for the group study. While they're talking, Mushi finally comes downstairs. The moment she sees Liao, she starts putting on the performance of her life. Pretending to be completely shocked, she acts as if she's seeing him for the first time. She dramatically says, "Liao! You came to my house so early for group study? I can't believe it! Am I dreaming?" Watching Mushi's over-the-top acting makes Liao's blood pressure rise. But since everyone is watching, he has no choice but to stay quiet and listen to her nonsense. After that, everyone sits together for the group study session. Liao sincerely tries to teach everyone and explains every lesson patiently. Unfortunately, none of the students are interested in studying at all. They spend more time chatting than paying attention. Honestly, instead of calling it a group study session, they should have just admitted they came to hang out. Meanwhile, we see Shenwei happily looking at Liao's photo. She starts thinking that if she really wants to win Liao's heart, she first needs to cook delicious food for him. She's convinced that once Liao tastes her cooking, he'll definitely be impressed with her. Because of that, Shenwei decides to learn cooking. Later, we see her arriving at a cooking class, hoping to learn all kinds of delicious recipes for Liao. However, the moment she enters the class, she's completely shocked. Mushi and all of her classmates are already there, learning cooking as well. Shenwei immediately assumes that Mushi has also come to learn cooking for Liao. Unable to hold back her curiosity, she asks Mushi who she's learning to cook for. Mushi happily replies that there's someone very close to her who loves her deeply and cooks delicious meals for her every single day. She wants to learn cooking so that she can also prepare tasty food for that person and make them happy. The person Mushi is talking about is actually her older brother, but Shenwei completely misunderstands her words. She becomes convinced that Mushi is talking about Liao. Jealousy immediately fills Shenwei's heart. She starts trying to distract Mushi and ruin her cooking practice, but Mushi pays absolutely no attention to her. She's completely focused on learning how to cook. Watching Mushi happily enjoying the cooking class only makes Shenwei even more jealous. She keeps thinking that Mushi is doing all of this just to get closer to Liao. Unable to bear it any longer, Shenwei leaves the class before learning a single recipe. Instead of learning to cook, she leaves carrying nothing but jealousy. In the next scene, the new school term officially begins. The teacher is disappointed with almost the entire class. The only student she's satisfied with is Liao. because everyone else has been treating their studies carelessly. She gives the whole class a serious lecture and tells them they must start taking their education seriously from now on. She asks everyone to promise that they'll study harder, but these students have absolutely no interest in studying. While the teacher is giving such an inspiring speech, most of them completely ignore her and remain lost in their own world. It's obvious that no matter how much the teacher advises them, her words simply go in one ear and out the other. Later, we see Saud, Shanyi, and Mushi sitting together under a tree, enjoying lots of delicious snacks. The three of them are extremely close friends. While eating together, they make an important promise. No matter what happens in the future, they will never let anything break their beautiful friendship. All three of them happily agree to this promise. Now, the big question is whether they'll truly be able to keep that promise, or whether their friendship will eventually fall apart. On the other hand, Saud is practicing his singing. Shanyi has written a new song for him and excitedly brings him the lyrics. However, after singing it, Saud doesn't like the song very much because the lyrics don't match the style he's looking for. Just then, Mushi arrives. She hands Saud a song that she wrote herself and asks him to sing it instead. As soon as Saud starts singing Mushi's lyrics, he immediately likes them much more. Mushi proudly smiles and says that her song is obviously the better one, but Shanyi quickly disagrees. She insists that her song is the best and says that Saud should perform the song she wrote. The real reason behind this argument is that Shanyi secretly likes Saud. Whenever she sees Saud and Mushi getting closer, she becomes insecure. She starts worrying that Mushi might steal Saud away from her. Later, we see everyone back in the classroom. Saud continues practicing his song while thinking about everything that has happened between Mushi and Shanyi. A little later, Mushi arrives and starts softly humming the song she wrote. Hearing this immediately annoys Shanyi. She stands up and tells Mushi to come outside because she wants to talk to her privately. But Mushi calmly replies that if Shanyi has something to say, she can say it right there because she's not going outside. Shanyi then asks Mushi if she really believes her song is better than the one Shanyi wrote. Without any hesitation, Mushi confidently answers yes. That simple answer turns into another argument between the two girls. As the fight continues, Shanyi loses control of her emotions and ends up saying several hurtful things to Mushi. She completely crosses the line. Instead of arguing back, Mushi quietly decides to end the fight. She simply tells Shanyi that she's right and that her song is the better one before walking away. After Mushi leaves, Shanyi immediately regrets everything she said. She realizes that she went too far and starts wondering whether Mushi will ever forgive her. She begins remembering the very first day they met, when Mushi forcefully entered her house and somehow became her friend. From that day on, the two of them became inseparable. They spent countless happy moments together, laughed together, played together, and built a beautiful friendship. Now Shanyi can't stop thinking about whether that friendship has come to an end. She wonders if Mushi is still angry with her, and whether apologizing will be enough to fix everything. Meanwhile, we see Mushi outside doing something very strange. She's using dirt to make what looks like a small grave. Just then, Shanyi walks over and asks what she's doing. Mushi jokingly replies that she's burying the friendship between the two of them. Hearing that completely breaks Shanyi's heart. She immediately starts apologizing over and over again. She admits that she spoke out of anger, crossed her limits, and said many things she should never have said. She begs Mushi not to stay angry with her and asks if they can become best friends again. Mushi smiles and tells her not to worry because she had already forgiven her. She says Shanyi doesn't need to apologize anymore. This moment once again shows what kind of person Mushi really is. Even though she's extremely mischievous, she has a very kind heart. The only person she truly can't stand is Liao. Somehow, no matter how much she argues with him, Liao still always wants what's best for her. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Mushi and Shanyi become best friends once again. Seeing their friendship return to normal is honestly one of the nicest moments in this part of the story, and the two of them happily spend time together just like before. Meanwhile, we see Liao sitting in his classroom, completely focused on his studies. Just then, Shenwei comes over and tries to talk to him. But Liao doesn't pay much attention and tells her that he's busy and she should come back later. Shenwei says she isn't here for any personal reason. Instead, she tells Liao that she noticed several students in his class had come to school without wearing the proper school uniform. Since he is responsible, she wants him to make sure everyone follows the school rules and wears the official uniform instead of casual clothes. This is probably the first time Shenwei has come to Liao without trying to impress him. She genuinely came to discuss something important. Just then, Saud and another girl from the class arrive, and neither of them is wearing the school uniform either. After seeing them, Liao tells Shenwei that he can't handle this matter himself. He should talk to Mushi instead, because Mushi is the class monitor. At that moment, Mushi and Shenyi also enter the classroom, and surprisingly, they aren't wearing school uniforms either. Seeing that even the class monitor is breaking the rules makes Liao feel embarrassed. He tells Shenwei that he'll discuss this issue with Mushi later, and asks her to leave for now. Then we see Liao getting very angry. He stands in front of the whole class and announces that from now on, everyone must come to school wearing the proper school uniform. He says casual clothes aren't allowed because they damage the school's reputation. Mushi immediately responds by saying that she's the class monitor, not Liao, so he shouldn't act like it's his responsibility. She also argues that these clothes aren't bad at all. They're simply modern fashion, and students should be allowed to wear them. However, Liao completely disagrees. He reminds Mushi that since she's the class monitor, she should be the first person to follow and enforce the school rules. According to him, no one should be allowed to come to school wearing anything other than the official uniform. Soon, the entire class is divided into two groups. One side supports Liao and believes everyone should wear the school uniform. The other side stands with Mushi and insists that students should have the freedom to wear whatever clothes they like. Both teams begin arguing with each other. Mushi's group loudly chants that fashion is part of the modern generation, and they should be allowed to express themselves through their clothes. They keep shouting, "Fashion, fashion!" over and over, making the classroom even more chaotic. As expected, Liao and Mushi end up having a huge argument. Neither of them is willing to change their opinion, and after arguing for a long time, they finally come up with an idea to settle the dispute. They decide to play a game. The rule is simple. Whichever team loses will have to accept the other team's decision. If Mushi's team wins, everyone will be free to wear any clothes they want to school. But if Liao's team wins, then everyone will have to wear the official school uniform every day. Now we see both teams dressed in military-style outfits as they prepare for the competition. Liao leads his own team while Mushi motivates hers, telling everyone that they must defeat Liao no matter what, because this is her best chance to finally take revenge on him. Soon, the game begins. The competition is a paintball-style fire gun battle. The objective is to shoot the members of the opposing team and eliminate them from the game. The last team with at least one surviving member will be declared the winner. Both teams fight really well, and one by one, almost everyone gets eliminated. Eventually, only Liao and Mushi are left facing each other. Mushi confidently tells Liao that this time no one can save him. She says she's finally going to take revenge on him. But there's actually a secret. Mushi had already been eliminated earlier in the match. Instead of accepting defeat, she secretly borrowed another teammate's helmet and sneaked back into the game just so she could defeat Liao. Her plan works. Mushi successfully shoots Liao, eliminating him from the game. She's overjoyed because, for the first time ever, she finally manages to defeat Liao. However, her happiness doesn't last long. A moment later, someone shoots Mushi from behind. It turns out that one member of Liao's team was still hiding and had never been eliminated. As a result, Mushi also gets knocked out, and Liao's team officially wins the match. Poor Mushi can't help feeling heartbroken. Even though she managed to defeat Liao herself, she still ends up losing the game in the end. Then we see everyone back at school. Since Mushi's team lost the challenge, they keep their promise and arrive at school wearing the official school uniforms. Liao proudly tells them that from now on, they must always wear the proper school uniform. But instead of feeling embarrassed, Mushi's team jokingly tells Liao to take their pictures. Liao actually starts taking photos while everyone strikes funny poses and enjoys the moment. The whole scene is surprisingly hilarious. After that, we see Liao sitting inside the classroom when all of his classmates suddenly gather around him. They tell him that if Mushi hadn't informed them, they would never have known such an important thing about him. Liao immediately becomes worried and starts wondering what Mushi has told everyone this time. Since Mushi always finds a way to create trouble for him, he's afraid she's done something again. But a few moments later, Mushi walks into the classroom carrying a birthday cake. It turns out that today is Liao's birthday. Mushi had secretly informed all of their classmates, and together they prepared a surprise birthday celebration for him. Liao is genuinely touched by everyone's surprise, and they all spend a wonderful time celebrating his birthday together in the classroom. Then we see Liao staying behind in the classroom to clean up after his birthday celebration. At that moment, Mushi comes over because she wants to talk to him. But as she's walking, she suddenly slips and is about to fall. Before she can hit the ground, Liao catches her just like a hero and saves her. The scene is shown several times, making it feel like Liao may have secretly liked Mushi since they were kids, but has never had the courage to tell her. After helping her up, Liao asks if she's okay. Mushi says she's completely fine. Liao then tells her that it's time to stop fooling around and start focusing on her studies because she needs to get into a good university. However, Mushi laughs and says that getting into a university is impossible for someone like her. She believes there won't be a single seat waiting for her because she's simply not good at studying. Even after hearing that, Liao patiently encourages her. He keeps explaining that if she studies seriously, she can still improve. Now the question is whether Mushi will finally listen to Liao's advice and start paying attention to her studies. After that, we see Shenwei standing alone near the school grounds. Just then, Liao runs past her. The moment Shenwei sees him, she starts daydreaming once again. She keeps wondering how she can finally confess her feelings to him. Meanwhile, we see Mushi practicing for a race. However, she quickly becomes exhausted. Seeing her struggle, Hongnan and Hong come over to encourage her. They cheer her on and tell her not to give up because they know she can do much better. The reason they're all practicing is that the school is organizing a sports event in just a few days. Then we see Mushi and Shen Yi inside the classroom arguing over who will finish their assignment first. They only have one day left before the submission deadline, so both of them are feeling the pressure. A little later, Mushi is sitting outside by herself, looking very upset. She knows she's weak in academics, and on top of that, most of her classmates don't take studying seriously either. As the class monitor, she feels frustrated because she can't even guide her own class in the right direction. On the other hand, Liao is sitting in his classroom when Shenwei comes over once again to talk to him. But just like every other time, Liao ignores her. Don't think she came to discuss something important this time either. She actually came because she wanted to get closer to Liao again, and Liao understands that very well. As Shenwei is about to leave, Liao suddenly asks her to wait. Shenwei happily runs back to him. She had brought 2 bottles of coffee. On one of the bottles, she had secretly written the words, "I love you." That was the bottle she wanted to give to Liao as a confession. But because she was so nervous and excited, she accidentally kept the confession bottle for herself and handed Liao the plain one instead. So once again, her confession completely fails without Liao realizing anything. Throughout the entire drama, Shenwei's love story really has the worst luck. That night, we see Mushi sitting at her desk, seriously trying to finish her assignment. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she tries, she simply can't concentrate. Studying has never interested her. Instead, she's always been much more interested in copying answers than actually learning the lessons. As a result, nothing she reads seems to stay in her head. The next day at school, Hongnan and Hong come to meet Mushi. They show her a special paper and excitedly tell her that it will help them score very well in the upcoming exam. The paper contains predictions about the kinds of questions that are most likely to appear in the exam. The moment Mushi sees it, she excitedly asks why they didn't show it to her earlier. No matter what happens, she wants to get good marks in the exam, even if she has to rely on shortcuts. When Mushi enters the classroom, she immediately starts daydreaming. In her imagination, she scores much higher than Liao in the exam. She imagines Liao standing in front of her with folded hands, asking her to teach him how to study so he can get good marks too. Thinking about this imaginary scene makes Mushi laugh out loud in the middle of the classroom. Liao notices her laughing for no reason and lightly taps her on the head before asking what's so funny. Mushi confidently tells him to enjoy teasing her while he still can, because after the exam she'll score much higher than him. Then he'll be the one asking how she managed to do it. Liao smiles and tells her that if she can honestly score better than him without cheating, then after the results come out, she can spend the entire day laughing at him as much as she wants. Mushi confidently replies that his words are about to come true, and when that day arrives, she's going to laugh at him non-stop. Later, we see Mushi meeting Hongnan and Hong again. All 3 of them are extremely happy because they believe they already know the answers to the upcoming exam. Mushi fully supports their cheating plan because, being a weak student herself, she's willing to do anything to get good marks. Soon, their teacher Yang arrives and gives everyone a strict warning. He tells the entire class that no one should even think about cheating during the exam. To make cheating even more difficult, Teacher Yang changes everyone's seating arrangement. As a result, Mushi is moved to a different classroom, where Shenwei is also taking the exam. The moment Shenwei sees Mushi, she immediately realizes that something is suspicious. Mushi is carrying a water bottle, and hidden inside the bottle are all the answers she plans to use during the test. Before Mushi gets the chance to cheat, Shenwei quietly walks over, takes the bottle away, and leaves the classroom with it. Because of that, Mushi loses her only cheating method and has no choice but to take the entire exam honestly. After the exam ends, Mushi looks completely disappointed. A little later, she walks up to Shenwei and asks why she took her bottle without even telling her. Shenwei calmly replies that if Mushi wants the bottle back, she'll hand it over to Teacher Yang first, and then Mushi can collect it from him later. Since Shenwei caught Mushi cheating during the exam, Mushi has nothing to say in her defense. She quietly walks away because she knows she has been caught red-handed. After that, we see Mushi, Hongnan, and Hong sitting together, actually studying for the first time. Since cheating is no longer an option, they have no choice but to prepare honestly. Thinking about all the hard work ahead, the three self-proclaimed cheating experts jokingly start crying together. A little later, Mushi runs into Liao again. She desperately wants him to show her his assignment so she can prepare for the exams, but Liao refuses. He wants Mushi to improve through her own efforts instead of depending on someone else. After rejecting her request, Liao walks away, leaving Mushi complaining and scolding him from behind. Then the day of the school's sports competition finally arrives. Mushi and her classmates are determined to defeat Class 10-1. Their biggest hope is a talented runner named Cheyenne. Even though Mushi worries that her class might lose, she fully believes Cheyenne can defeat Class 10-1 all by himself. Everyone is excited as the race begins. Cheyenne takes an early lead and starts running incredibly well. His classmates cheer loudly, convinced they're about to win. But suddenly, another student runs up from behind and deliberately pushes Cheyenne to the ground. Everyone is shocked. Cheyenne injures his leg and is unable to continue the race. Seeing what happened, Shenwei immediately pulls one of her classmates aside and scolds him. She tells him that what he did was completely wrong. They should have won through fair competition instead of cheating. However, Mushi doesn't know that. She angrily walks over to Shenwei and accuses her class of cheating because they knew they couldn't defeat Cheyenne fairly. Shenwei calmly explains that they're misunderstanding the situation. She insists it wasn't planned and claims it was only an accident, but Mushi refuses to believe her. She continues blaming Shenwei before storming away in anger. At the same time, we also see that Liao is upset with Shenwei because, from his point of view, it really looks like her class cheated during the competition. Shenwei becomes heartbroken. Despite trying so hard to get closer to Liao, she still hasn't been able to win his heart. Now, because of her classmate's mistake, Liao is angry with her as well. She has no idea how she'll ever make him like her now. Meanwhile, Mushi returns to her classroom still furious. She even starts taking her anger out on Liao, reminding him that Shenwei's class cheated against them. Liao tells Mushi that he knows what happened, but instead of taking revenge by cheating, he wants their class to defeat the other team through fair play. He asks Mushi to promise that she won't try to cheat during the next event, no matter what happens. At first, nobody in the class agrees with Liao, but Mushi finally gives him her word. She promises that she'll compete fairly and won't cheat against Shenwei's class. A little later, Mushi and Shenwei both arrive at the sports field before the next event begins. They're only supposed to warm up, but the way they stretch and exercise makes it look like they're already fighting each other. By now, the rivalry between them has become very intense. Shenwei sees Mushi as her rival because Liao always spends time with her. On the other hand, Mushi wants to defeat Shenwei because she still believes Shenwei's class cheated during the previous race. Meanwhile, Liao and Saud are also warming up seriously. They both want to make sure their class defeats Class 10-1 in the upcoming relay race. Finally, it's time for the relay event to begin. The first runner, Shen Yi, starts running with the relay baton. After reaching the next checkpoint, he passes the baton to Saud. Saud runs as fast as he can and successfully hands the baton over to Liao. Liao has practiced hard for this race, so he begins running at full speed. But just then, one of Shenwei's classmates intentionally bumps into Liao, making it obvious that they're trying to win by cheating once again. Liao falls to the ground before he can pass the baton to Mushi. Meanwhile, that same student successfully hands the baton over to Shenwei, and she immediately sprints toward the finish line. Mushi notices that every other team is pulling ahead. She runs over to Liao to take the baton. At that moment, Liao suddenly imagines a beautiful scene in his mind. In his imagination, Mushi refuses to leave him behind. She tells him that she would rather lose the race than leave him injured on the ground. She says that he's much more important to her than winning any competition. The two of them even look deeply into each other's eyes, and Mushi throws the baton away before helping Liao walk off the field together. But that only happens in Liao's imagination. The reality is completely different. Mushi quickly grabs the baton from Liao's hand and starts running without hesitation. Before leaving, she tells him that winning the race comes first. Once she wins, she'll come back and help him. Until then, he should just stay where he is. Poor Liao had imagined such a romantic moment, only to be brought back to reality in the funniest way possible. Meanwhile, Muxi runs as fast as she can because she's determined to catch Shen Wei, win the relay race, and bring victory to her class. She gives it everything she has. And in the end, Muxi finally manages to overtake Shen Wei during the race. Meanwhile, Shen Wei also starts running as fast as she possibly can because she refuses to lose to Muxi. But no matter how hard she tries, she can't catch up. In the end, Muxi crosses the finish line first and wins the race. She is overjoyed because she finally manages to defeat Shen Wei. Her entire class erupts in celebration after beating Class 10-1. Everyone rushes onto the field, jumping and cheering with excitement. Looking at them, it feels like they've just won their very first championship. On the other hand, Shen Wei is completely heartbroken. Not only did she lose to Muxi in the race, but she already feels like Muxi has taken Liao away from her as well. Now she has been defeated by Muxi once again. Feeling disappointed, she quietly leaves the field. Meanwhile, Muxi and the rest of her classmates are so busy celebrating that they completely forget about Liao. Then we see poor Liao still lying on the ground where he had fallen during the race. He keeps calling out for help, asking if anyone is there to take him away. But no one hears him because everyone else is too busy celebrating their victory. The next morning, we see Muxi getting ready very early because she's going to meet someone. At the same time, Liao is waiting for someone at another place. A few moments later, Muxi arrives and the two of them leave together. We'll soon find out where they're going. However, someone is secretly following them. It's Muxi's older brother. He mistakenly thinks that Muxi is going on a date with a boy, so he decides to follow her. But when he sees that she's with Liao, he immediately relaxes. Muxi's brother smiles at Liao and says that now he doesn't have to worry about his sister anymore because she's with him. He even jokingly says that Muxi's future is now in Liao's hands. Of course, Liao and Muxi have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. They don't realize that Muxi's brother has misunderstood everything and believes they're dating. The truth is much simpler. The two of them are actually going to visit Liao's grandmother at the hospital. Soon, they arrive at the hospital together. The moment Liao's grandmother sees Muxi, she becomes incredibly happy. The three of them spend a long time chatting and enjoying each other's company. After visiting her, Liao and Muxi walk outside and stand together for quite a while. They continue talking until evening before finally returning to their own homes. The next morning, everyone discovers that Liao's grandmother has disappeared from the hospital once again. Liao immediately goes out searching for her with his father. This is actually the first time we see Liao's father in the entire drama. Liao suggests searching near the beach because that's where they have found his grandmother several times before. However, his father completely ignores his suggestion. From his behavior, it's obvious that Liao's father isn't a very understanding person. In fact, it feels like he may become the biggest obstacle between Liao and Muxi in the future. Meanwhile, Liao's grandmother has indeed wandered off to the beach and is quietly sitting by the shore. A little later, Muxi also arrives there. Earlier, Liao had called her and told her that his grandmother had gone missing again, so he asked Muxi to check the beach. Luckily, Muxi finds her. The grandmother gently rests her head on Muxi's shoulder and suddenly closes her eyes. Muxi immediately panics. She keeps calling out to her over and over again, but the grandmother doesn't respond at all. Just when Muxi is about to lose hope, the grandmother suddenly opens her eyes and smiles. She asks why Muxi is so frightened and says that she often jokes around like this. That moment clearly shows how deeply Muxi cares about her. A little while later, the grandmother leans on Muxi's shoulder once again, and they quietly remain there together until evening. However, things are much more serious than Muxi realizes. Later, we learn that Liao's grandmother has been rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Muxi thought she had simply fallen asleep at the beach, but in reality, she had actually lost consciousness. That's why she had to be admitted to the hospital immediately. When Liao's father finds out what happened, he becomes furious with Muxi. He angrily asks why she didn't contact their family or take his mother to the hospital immediately if she knew where she was. He even tells Muxi to stay away from his family forever. According to him, his mother's condition became so serious because of Muxi's mistake, and he never wants to see her again. After saying all of that, he gets into the car and tells Liao to do the same. Liao quietly obeys his father. Without saying a single word to Muxi, He gets into the car as well. At that moment, it's impossible to tell whether Liao also blames Mushi for his grandmother's condition, or whether he's simply unable to go against his father. A few days later, we see Mushi looking completely devastated. Sadly, Liao's grandmother has passed away. What hurts Mushi the most is that she wasn't even allowed to see her one last time. The only reason for that is Liao's father, who had forbidden her from coming anywhere near their family. As she sits alone, Mushi remembers all the beautiful moments she spent with Liao's grandmother, making the loss even more painful. Then we see Liao with his father once again. His father tells him that he must transfer to class 10-1 as soon as possible. He doesn't want Liao staying in his current class anymore. He also strictly warns him never to meet Mushi again. According to him, Mushi is responsible for his mother's death, and he doesn't even want Liao to go anywhere near her. He angrily says that if Liao continues spending time with Mushi, he doesn't know what he'll end up doing. Faced with his father's harsh words, Liao remains completely silent and quietly agrees to do as he's told. Because Liao knows his father very well, he understands that if his father loses his temper, he could end up hurting Mushi. That's why Liao silently agrees to everything, even though it breaks his own heart. The next day, we see Liao in his classroom. Mushi comes over because she wants to apologize and talk to him about everything that has happened. However, Liao only says one sentence. He tells her that today he's transferring to class 10-1. After saying that, he quietly walks away without giving Mushi a chance to say anything else. Since Liao refuses to explain himself, Mushi starts believing that he also blames her for his grandmother's death. What Mushi doesn't know is that Liao is only acting this way because of his father. He's trying to protect her from getting hurt. A little later, Liao's classmates gather around him. They beg him not to leave their class because everyone will miss him terribly. They even tell him that Mushi will be the one who suffers the most if he leaves. But Liao says he has no choice. He has to transfer to class 10-1. None of his friends know that he's only doing this to keep Mushi safe. After that, everyone goes to Mushi and suggests that since Liao is leaving the class, they should do something special to give him a proper farewell. Mushi immediately acts as if she doesn't care. She says that ever since they were children, she's always wished Liao would stay away from her. So now that he's finally leaving, she should be happy instead of sad. According to her, there's no reason to prepare anything for him, but the expression on her face tells a completely different story. It's obvious that she doesn't mean a single word she's saying. Deep inside, she's heartbroken that Liao is leaving. Later, after school ends, Mushi and Liao meet one last time. Liao takes out a 3-year study plan that he carefully prepared for her. He hopes she'll follow it seriously so she can improve her grades and eventually get into a good university. Mushi is already emotionally exhausted. She thanks Liao for thinking about her and says she truly appreciates everything he's done, but she refuses to accept the study plan. She tells him she doesn't need it before quietly walking away. After Mushi leaves, we see Liao standing there alone, looking completely devastated. Little by little, the distance between the two of them continues to grow. The next day, Liao officially says goodbye to all of his classmates before leaving the class. Mushi watches him go with tears hidden behind her silence. She isn't happy at all. After Liao transfers, she starts missing him every single day. Only after losing him does she realize how important he had become in her life. Soon after, Mushi stands in front of the class and admits that she doesn't think she's been a very good class monitor. From that day onward, she always looks sad. Later, Mushi meets with her class teacher and asks to resign as the class monitor. The truth is, she only wanted to become class monitor because of Liao. Now that he's no longer in her class, she doesn't see any reason to continue. She finally realizes that the reason she was always so cheerful at school was because Liao was always there. Without him, nothing feels the same anymore. Then we see the entire class looking gloomy. Neither Liao is with them anymore, nor is Mushi smiling like she used to. From then on, whenever Liao and Mushi happen to cross paths at school, they simply ignore each other and quietly walk away without saying a single word. Even after returning home, Mushi can't stop thinking about Liao. At the same time, Liao is also unable to sleep peacefully. Both of them keep remembering all the happy moments they shared together. Now, the biggest question is whether they'll ever become close friends again, or whether Liao's father will permanently separate them. After that, the exam results are finally announced. Everyone gathers around the notice board to check their scores. Mushi also arrives to see her result, but before checking her own marks, she looks at Liao's result first. Just like always, Liao has ranked first in the entire grade once again. Then, Mushi checks her own result. As expected, she's still near the very bottom of the rankings. She was already feeling miserable because of everything that had happened, and seeing her poor result makes her even more upset. Noticing her disappointment, Hongnan and Hong immediately try to cheer her up. They loudly announce in front of everyone that no matter what their exam results are, Mushi will always be their big boss. Then they start chanting, "Mushi! Mushi! Mushi!" over and over until she finally smiles again. Unfortunately, that happy moment doesn't last long. Just then, Shenwei walks over. She sarcastically tells Mushi that she's still stuck near the bottom of the rankings and hasn't improved at all. Shenwei keeps mocking and insulting her. Surprisingly, Mushi doesn't argue back this time. She knows that fighting with Shenwei will only make her feel even worse, so she decides to ignore everything and quietly walks away. But before she can leave, someone suddenly grabs her hand. A moment later, we see that it's Saud. Saud brings Mushi back and stands beside her in front of Shenwei. He tells Mushi that no matter what her exam result is, she shouldn't feel discouraged. He points at himself and says that he didn't get good marks either, yet he's still perfectly happy. He also tells her not to care about what other people say. Seeing this opportunity, Shenwei starts insulting Saud as well. But unlike Mushi, Saud refuses to stay silent. He confidently answers every single one of Shenwei's insults right to her face. Soon, all the other students begin supporting Saud and Mushi. Instead of blaming them, everyone starts pointing fingers at Shenwei. Realizing that nobody is on her side anymore, Shenwei has nothing left to say. Filled with anger and embarrassment, she quietly turns around and walks away. Then we see Mushi and Saud sitting together at a restaurant. Deep down, Saud has already made up his mind. Today, he wants to confess his feelings to Mushi. However, he's also nervous because he fears she'll reject him. More importantly, he suspects that Liao is already the one in Mushi's heart. Before Saud can say anything, Mushi suddenly speaks first. She tells him that she considers him one of her closest friends and hopes they'll always remain good friends forever. She doesn't want their friendship to ever change. After hearing those words, Saud immediately understands everything. He realizes that Mushi only sees him as a friend, and the person she truly loves is Liao. Instead of being upset, Saud smiles and accepts it. Mushi then tells him that she wants to change herself. She doesn't want to keep acting childish anymore. She wants to become more mature and start taking life seriously. Saud happily supports her decision. He reminds her that she helped him whenever he needed her, and now it's his turn to help her as a true friend. It's interesting because Liao had been trying to teach Mushi this lesson for a long time, but only after losing Liao does Mushi finally realize that she needs to grow up. The next day, we see all of their friends gathered together at school. Everyone is worried about Mushi because she's been depressed ever since Liao left the class. They all agree that the only way to cheer her up is to reunite her with Liao. So everyone starts coming up with different plans to get the two of them together and clear up the misunderstanding between them. After discussing for a while, they finally decide to invite both of them to an amusement park without letting either of them know about the plan. According to the plan, Shen Yi secretly gives Mushi a ticket, while Hongnan and Hong give another ticket to Liao. They hope the two of them will meet there and finally talk everything out. That night, all of their friends secretly hide around the park, excitedly waiting for Mushi and Liao to arrive. They believe their plan is finally going to succeed. But suddenly, Hongnan and Hong come running over and warn everyone that the security guards are heading their way. Everyone immediately runs away to avoid getting caught. Meanwhile, Liao arrives at the park and starts waiting. Mushi also arrives, but the two of them are standing in different areas without noticing each other. A few moments later, two security guards spot Mushi and begin chasing her because the park is already closed. Mushi runs as fast as she can to escape. Just as the guards are about to catch her, Liao suddenly appears from behind and stops one of the guards, giving Mushi enough time to get away. Liao asks why she's wandering around the park so late at night. Mushi immediately asks him the exact same question. Soon after, the guards catch both of them anyway and take them to the security office. The guards begin scolding them, asking why they're wandering around the park in the middle of the night. They even assume Liao and Mushi are a couple who secretly came on a late-night date. The two of them simply sit there quietly and listen to the lecture without saying much. After a while, the guards finally let them go. Now Liao and Mushi begin walking home together. For a long time, neither of them says a single word. Finally, Liao breaks the silence. He tells Mushi that there's a reason he's always been so protective of her. When they were little, they once played hide and seek together. Mushi hid somewhere and waited for Liao to find her. But Liao became distracted and forgot all about the game. By the time he remembered and went looking for her, Mushi had already been waiting alone for a very long time. Ever since that day, Liao has carried a deep sense of guilt. That's why he's always tried to protect Mushi whenever he could. He then tells her something even more important. He says he never blamed her for his grandmother's death because his grandmother passed away unexpectedly. The real reason he stayed away from Mushi was because of his father. He was afraid his father would hurt her if they continued seeing each other. Hearing the truth leaves Mushi completely shocked. She immediately grabs Liao's shirt collar and pulls him closer. With tears in her eyes, she scolds him for hiding something so important. She tells him that if he had explained everything from the beginning, she never would have spent all that time being angry with him. Then she makes him promise something. From now on, no matter how big or small the problem is, he must never hide anything from her again. She proudly reminds him not to forget that she's still his big boss. Liao smiles and promises that he'll always remember she's his big boss. At that moment, the atmosphere between them becomes incredibly romantic. Liao slowly leans closer as if he's about to kiss Mushi. This is probably the moment every viewer has been waiting for throughout the entire drama. But just before anything can happen, all of their friends suddenly appear and completely ruin the romantic moment. Even though Liao and Mushi are embarrassed, their friends are absolutely thrilled because their plan has worked perfectly. The misunderstanding between Liao and Mushi has finally been cleared, and the two of them have become close again. After that, we see Shenwei sitting alone in her classroom crying non-stop. We don't know the exact reason yet, but it's obvious that she's heartbroken. A few days later, Liao, Mushi, and all of their classmates go on a trip to the beach together. Everyone throws colorful powder at each other, almost like they're celebrating the Holy Festival. The entire group enjoys themselves and has a wonderful time together. A little later, Liao and Mushi sit quietly by the beach and spend some time talking together. Now Mushi has finally become her cheerful self again because Liao is back in her life. Liao is just as happy to have Mushi by his side once more. Then we see Mushi sitting in her classroom when she overhears a conversation outside. A teacher is asking Liao why he has returned to this class again. Liao explains that he missed another important test, so he has no choice but to repeat the class and study there again. The moment Mushi hears this, she realizes that Liao sacrificed everything because of her. He even missed his test and ended up returning to her class. She feels guilty because Liao has done so much for her, while she feels she hasn't done anything for him in return. And with that, the drama, The Big Boss, comes to an end. The series currently has 2 seasons, and although there's no confirmation about a 3rd season yet, hopefully we'll get one in the future. Even though the romance wasn't the main focus of the story, the drama beautifully portrayed the friendship between Liao and Mushi. Watching their relationship slowly grow from childhood rivals into people who truly cared for each other made the story both heartwarming and memorable. That's exactly what makes this one of the most enjoyable high school romance dramas.